The old ruins of Station 9 were silent that cold evening, the kind of silence that made even a brave man like feel uneasy. Dust floated gently in the air, drifting like tired ghosts above broken metal floors. Walked slowly, holding a small flashlight, searching for scrap he could sell to survive another week. Life on the outer colonies was never easy, and every piece of metal mattered. But that day, something else mattered far more, though he didn't know it yet. As he stepped deeper inside the abandoned station, he heard a faint hum, like a soft vibration in the walls. At first, he thought it was just old machinery, something left running long after humans had abandoned the place. But then he saw a glow, faint and trembling from behind a collapsed doorway. Froze. For a moment he wondered if it was a powered battery or maybe some dangerous chemical. But the glow was too soft, too warm, almost like a heartbeat pulsing in the dark. His instincts said run, but something stronger whispered go closer. So he did. He pushed aside a fallen steel panel, and there she was. A girl, no, not quite human, was curled up on the cold floor. Her skin glowed gently under the dust like moonlight wrapped in breath. Silver patterns moved slowly across her arms, flowing like living waves. Stared, confused and stunned. He had heard stories of alien travelers passing through the outer belts, but he never believed them. Yet there she was, trembling, hurt, and completely alone. She opened her eyes halfway and felt a strange ache in his chest. They were bright like crystal water, but filled with fear. She tried to speak, but her voice cracked, weak and broken, dropped to his knees instantly. "Hey, it's okay," he said softly. "I'm not here to hurt you." She looked at him as if trying to understand his words. Then slowly, very slowly, she reached out her hand. Hesitated. Every book, every warning, every human instinct told him not to touch something he didn't understand. But the fear in her eyes was deeper than his. So he lifted his hand, too. When their fingers met, a warm pulse spread through his skin. It was gentle, like a soft wave moving through him. But there was something more, something emotional. He saw flashes of her memories, not sharp images, but feelings, a ship breaking apart, fire, panic, a desperate escape pod crashing into the empty station, loneliness, cold nights, hunger, fear that humans would attack her if they found her. Gasped and pulled his hand back slightly, shocked. The girl also flinched and whispered, "I am sorry. My species transfers emotion on touch. I did not mean to show you my pain." Her words were soft, almost musical, but filled with shame. Shook his head quickly. "No, don't be sorry. You didn't do anything wrong." The girl lowered her gaze as if she had forgotten what kindness felt like. He asked her name. She hesitated, then whispered, "Lyra," repeated it, letting it roll gently off his tongue. Her eyes softened, as if hearing her own name after many lonely days brought her a little comfort. Looked around the station. It was falling apart, cold and dangerous. She couldn't stay here another night. "Lyra," he said, "you can't survive here. Come with me." She stared at him, shocked. "You will help me," nodded. "Yes, you're not safe alone." For a long moment she simply looked at him, studying his face, his posture, his tone, trying to see if he was lying. When she finally stood, her legs trembled from exhaustion, moved quickly to support her, but stopped when he remembered the emotional touch. She noticed his hesitation and whispered, "It is okay. I will control it." This time, when he held her, her touch felt warm but calm, like gentle sunlight instead of painful memories. Together they walked out of the ruins. The cold wind brushed against them, but beside him, Lyra glowed softly like a small living lantern guiding the darkness away. New life wasn't easy on the colony. Humans could be fearful, suspicious, harsh with strangers. He didn't know how they would react when he brought an alien girl home. But one thing was clear: when her light touched his hand, something changed inside him. Something new awakened. Something that whispered, "Don't let her go." He didn't know it, and Lyra didn't know it either. But that single light touch was the beginning of everything. As led Lyra back toward the settlement, the glow from her skin lit up the dark, narrow path through the abandoned fields. It was strange, almost magical, how something so fragile could shine so brightly. Tried to focus on the trail, but he kept stealing glances at her. She walked quietly, her arms wrapped around herself as if the warmth from her own body wasn't enough. Her eyes occasionally flicked up to meet his, and every time they did, he felt a pull in his chest he couldn't explain. She was unlike anyone he had ever met. Her touch had left a memory on him, not just in his hand, but in his mind and heart. It was soft and painful, like someone had opened a door to a world he didn't know existed. Lyra, for her part, was cautious. Every step closer to humans made her glow dim slightly, as if fear drained her energy. She had survived alone for weeks, hiding from anyone who might see her as a threat. The stories of humans on distant colonies were not comforting. They were harsh, loud, suspicious, and quick to judge. She had expected violence or fear when they saw her, but was different. His voice, his careful movements, and the warmth in his eyes reassured her in a way she had not felt since leaving her home planet. For the first time, she felt she might belong somewhere, even if just a little. As they walked, tried to make conversation, though he wasn't sure if she would answer. "What happened to your ship?" he asked gently. Lyra hesitated, then took a deep breath. "It was attacked. My people, they didn't survive. I escaped, but I was alone for so long, I didn't know if I would live," she said softly, her words trembling like her glowing fingers, nodded, unable to imagine that kind of loss. "I'm so sorry," he whispered. "You shouldn't have to face that alone." Her eyes filled with a strange mix of sadness and relief. She looked down at her hands, watching the soft glow pulse with her emotions. Realized that this glow was not just light. It was a language, a window into her feelings. It told him everything she couldn't put into words: fear, exhaustion, loneliness, and now, a cautious hope. Hours passed, but they didn't notice. By the time they reached the settlement walls, the sky was turning pink and orange with the first light of dawn. The humans in the outer watchtower froze when they saw Lyra. Some stepped back in fear. Others whispered to each other, pointing, quickly stepped in front of her. "She's not dangerous," he said firmly. "She needs help, not judgment." But humans were suspicious by nature. One of the guards frowned, lowering his weapon slightly. "We don't know what she is," he said. "She could be a threat." Lyra shrank behind, her glow dimming in fear. Felt a protective fire ignite inside him. "She's not a threat. I will take full responsibility for her," he said, his voice steady. "Now leave her alone." The guard hesitated, then nodded slowly. Humans were slow to trust, but they understood courage when they saw it. Once inside the settlement, Lyra's glow pulsed softly, responding to the warmth and caution around her. Children peeked at her from behind walls, curious but unafraid. She noticed their innocent eyes and felt her own heart lighten. For the first time since the crash, she smiled, a shy, hesitant smile. Noticed and felt a deep relief wash over him. He offered her food and water, and she accepted quietly, moving carefully as though every movement might break her delicate form. She had been alone for so long that simple gestures now seemed monumental. Watched her eat and realized that survival wasn't just about finding food or shelter. It was about trust, about connecting, about letting someone see you as you truly were. And in that moment, Lyra was learning what it meant to be human, or at least to belong among humans, even if she wasn't one of them. When the sun rose higher, the settlement seemed alive with new energy. Showed her around, introducing her to the few humans willing to listen. Lyra kept her distance, her glow dimming with every doubtful glance from the settlers, but never let her face their fear alone. He stayed beside her, offering reassurance with a steady hand and calm words. Slowly, she began to relax, her glow returning to its soft, beautiful pulse. The warmth between them grew, not just the warmth of her touch, but the warmth of understanding, empathy, and quiet companionship. Every time their fingers brushed, felt more than electricity or light. He felt hope, a fragile, growing hope that maybe, just maybe, they could both survive this world and change it in the process. By the time Lyra reached the center of the settlement, the full weight of human suspicion became clear. People froze, stopped in mid-step, and stared. Mothers pulled children behind them. Farmers lowered their tools. Even the settlement council, usually calm and cautious, leaned forward in tense curiosity. Whispers spread like wildfire. "What is that creature? She's not human. Look at her glowing skin, this could be dangerous." Lyra shrank slightly, wrapping her arms around herself, her glow dimming as fear prickled through her. The warmth she had carried on the path here began to flicker, and felt a pang of anger and sorrow. He had seen fear before in humans, of course, but this was different. This was fear of something unknown, something that had done nothing but survive. Lyra's presence challenged them, and instead of curiosity, they reacted with caution and suspicion, stepped closer, moving to shield her from the staring eyes. "She's not dangerous," he said firmly, his voice calm but powerful. "She needs help, that's all." Some council members frowned, but could see the tension in their shoulders. Fear was a hard thing to fight in humans, even when reason whispered otherwise. The settlement's elder, a tall woman with silver-streaked hair, stepped forward. Her gaze was sharp but not cruel. "We cannot risk the safety of our people," she said. "We don't know what she can do. Perhaps she carries powers or worse, intentions we cannot understand." Clenched his fists but stayed silent, knowing that arguing would only escalate the fear. Instead, he turned to Lyra and offered a gentle smile. She looked at him, eyes wide as if searching for reassurance. "It's okay," he whispered. "I'm here." Lyra nodded slightly and tried to stand taller, though her glow flickered nervously. She had survived alone for weeks, hiding from hunters and hostile worlds. Humans were supposed to be intelligent, brave, capable of kindness, but right now their reaction reminded her why isolation had felt safer, yet remained by her side, steady and unwavering. That simple presence made the difference. She felt for the first time in days that maybe someone truly cared. Despite his efforts, the council made their decision quickly. Lyra would remain outside the central area of the settlement until they could determine whether she was safe. Felt a tight knot form in his chest. He wanted to argue, to shout, to show them the truth of who she was, but he also knew the council would never listen if he lost control. So he stayed calm. "Then I will stay outside too," he said, looking at Lyra. "We'll wait together. You're not alone." Her eyes softened, and a faint glow returned to her skin. The first real warmth of trust since her arrival seemed to pulse between them. Even humans who feared her noticed it. There was a connection there, something unspoken but undeniable. Over the next hours brought her food and water, blankets and warmth, speaking to her softly while she watched the settlement from a distance. Every interaction, every gesture built a fragile bridge between them. Knew she could feel emotions through her touch, and each time she brushed against him accidentally, he felt her gratitude, fear, and cautious hope. Lyra began to respond in her own way, letting tiny sparks of her light escape from her skin, illuminating the small camp outside the settlement. Children peeked through the fences, amazed and curious, whispering to each other, "She's beautiful." The adults, however, remained wary. The fear in their eyes reminded of a harsh truth. Humans were slow to trust, but capable of incredible courage when they understood. His job, he realized, was not just to protect Lyra from the outside world, but to help humans see that fear could be replaced with understanding. As night fell, Lyra's glow became brighter, though still soft and trembling. The stars above reflected in her eyes, creating the illusion of galaxies swirling within them. Watched her and felt a deep respect, a mixture of admiration and something more profound. She had survived unimaginable loneliness, yet here she was, still offering herself to humanity's flawed kindness. He knew that humans feared her not because she was dangerous, but because she was different, different in the most extraordinary way. And differences, he realized, often scared people more than danger itself. Held her hand lightly. This small touch conveyed something more powerful than words. "You are not alone. You are safe here with me." Somewhere in the settlement, the council murmured among themselves, debating and planning, but ignored their whispers. He focused on Lyra, her faint glow, her trembling hands, the fragile hope forming in her eyes. The world outside was still harsh, still cruel, but in that moment a small seed of trust had been planted. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but he knew this. Humans could learn to see beauty in the unknown. And perhaps with time, fear could turn into something stronger, into courage, into love, into understanding. For Lyra, this was her first taste of that possibility. For it was a reminder that sometimes the bravest act is simply to stand beside someone when the world is afraid. The night had barely settled when the alarms screamed across the settlement, loud and piercing, tearing through the quiet like metal against stone. Bolted upright, heart hammering in his chest. Lyra, who had been resting quietly beside him, sat up, her glow suddenly flaring in response to his tension. Above the horizon, a dark shape descended through the clouds, its massive engines cutting through the thin atmosphere. It was unlike any ship had ever seen, sleek, black, and menacing, with weapon arrays that glinted under the faint starlight. The settlers ran in panic, screaming, shouting, grabbing loved ones, barricading themselves behind walls. The council members barked orders, but fear made coordination nearly impossible. Lyra's eyes widened as she stared at the ship, her glow pulsing rapidly like a heartbeat. "I know that ship," she whispered, voice trembling, froze. "You know it." She nodded, her hands clutching at the air as if holding herself together. "They are hunters. They destroy everything that is different. They do not stop. They do not negotiate. They conquer or they annihilate." Felt a cold wave of dread wash over him. The stories of marauding alien hunters had seemed distant, almost like nightmares from old records. But now they were here, real, looming over the settlement, and Lyra was their target. Panic spread faster than any warning system. Humans scrambled to weapons they had barely trained with, trying to organize defenses against enemies far beyond their experience. Pulled Lyra behind a barricade, his mind racing. "We have to get people to safety," he said urgently, but she shook her head, stepping out from behind him. Eyes widened. "Lyra, no, you can't fight them alone. They'll kill you." She looked at him with a strange, determined calm. "I can fight them. My energy, my light. It can disrupt their weapons, but it will drain me. I could be hurt badly or worse." His chest tightened. "You don't owe us this," he said fiercely, grabbing her hands. "You came here and we're lucky to have you alive. Don't risk yourself for people who barely understand you yet." Lyra's hands glowed faintly as she looked at him, and then for a moment her soft light pulsed stronger. "You showed me kindness when no one else would. You protected me. I cannot stand by while they destroy your people. Humans, they can be cruel, yes, but they are also capable of so much good. I will not let them die if I can help." Eyes stung with emotion. Her words, her courage, the faint glow radiating from her skin, it was awe-inspiring. Here was a being who had survived unimaginable loss, willing to put herself in harm's way for others. She stepped forward, her body beginning to shine brighter, almost blindingly, as energy gathered in waves beneath her skin. Followed closely, ready to support her if she faltered. The hunters landed with a thunderous impact, their heavy armor clanking as they moved forward, weapons aimed. The humans fired back, but their energy weapons sputtered, shorted, and sparked uselessly against the invaders' advanced shields. Could only watch, heart pounding, as Lyra raised her hands. A brilliant, pure light erupted from her, spreading outward in waves that disrupted the hunters' weapons, short-circuiting their armor and forcing them to stagger back. Sparks flew, engines stalled, and for a moment silence fell in the chaos, broken only by the hum of Lyra's radiant energy. But the effort was taking its toll. Her knees shook, her glow flickered unevenly, and sweat, or something like it, dotted her forehead. Ran to her side, shouting, "Hold on, don't give up." She turned to him, her face glowing, tired but resolute. I have to, for them, for you, for all of you," she gasped. He felt tears blur his vision as she channeled the energy outward, the hunters' advance halting completely. And then, exhausted, she faltered. Caught her in his arms just as her glow dimmed, leaving her almost completely drained. Her chest heaved as she struggled to breathe, but her eyes, still luminous, met his. "You are safe," she whispered, faint but full of unspoken emotion. Held her tightly, heart swelling with admiration, gratitude, and fear. He had never met anyone or anything so selfless, so brave. For a moment the chaos around them faded, and all that remained was her light, fragile but unyielding, and the bond that had begun the day he first found her. The hunters' ships had landed in a jagged, black line on the edge of the settlement, their dark hulls reflecting the faint glow of Lyra's energy. The humans scrambled in panic, firing whatever weapons they could manage, but every shot fizzled uselessly against the invaders' superior armor. Buildings shuddered under the barrage, walls cracking, fires igniting. His heart raced as he grasped Lyra's hand. "We have to do something, we can't just—" His words cut off as she released his hand, stepping forward, her glow pulsing brighter with every stride. "I can stop them," she said, her voice trembling but resolute. "It will take everything I have. I might not survive it." His chest tightened, fear and admiration mixing into a bitter knot. "No, Lyra, please, don't risk your life for us." But she shook her head, her gaze unwavering. "You gave me hope when I had none. I can't let them die." She raised her hands toward the approaching invaders, and a wave of pure, radiant light burst from her, spreading in arcs that crackled and shimmered across the battlefield. The hunters' weapons faltered, sparks flying, their shields collapsing under the force. And the humans watched in awe as their enemies stumbled, some retreating while others struggled to recalibrate. Lyra's body trembled violently as the light surged, waves of energy rippling outward, hitting every dark hull, every armored figure. Smoke and sparks filled the air. Her glow became almost blinding, like a small sun had been born in the middle of the battlefield. Wanted to reach her, to pull her back, to shield her, but he knew he couldn't. This was her fight, her sacrifice, and she had chosen it. As the hunters faltered, their ranks collapsing, Lyra's knees buckled. Her breath came in short, sharp gasps. Ran to her side, his chest aching, hands reaching for her fragile frame. "Lyra, stay with me, you can do this." She shook her head weakly, sweat, or the alien equivalent, glimmering on her skin. I must finish this. They cannot win. Humans deserve a chance," she whispered, her glow pulsing unevenly. Gritted his teeth, tears stinging his eyes, helpless but unable to stop her. The energy around her expanded, striking every hunter with waves that disabled weapons, collapsed armor, and caused their ships' engines to fail. One by one, the dark figures fell back, retreating in fear of her overwhelming light. Finally, silence began to settle over the battlefield. The fires burned, the walls were damaged, and the humans who had survived cautiously emerged from cover. Lowered himself beside Lyra, holding her gently as she slumped against him, exhausted, almost motionless. Her glow flickered faintly, weak but still present. "You are safe," she whispered, her voice barely audible, but there was a warmth in it that made his chest ache. He brushed her hair back, tears spilling down his cheeks. "You did it. You saved everyone," he said, voice shaking. Her eyes, dim now but still glowing faintly, met his. I hope I changed something," she murmured, a soft smile brushing her lips. Held her closer, feeling the fragile warmth of her energy fading with each passing second. Around them, humans began to emerge fully from hiding. Their fear from before had transformed into awe. They saw the girl who had stood against impossible odds, who had risked herself to save them. The council approached cautiously, eyes wide. She saved us," one elder said, voice filled with disbelief and respect. Another nodded. "We were wrong to fear her. We should have trusted her." Children peeked through broken walls, staring at the glowing girl who had become a hero in their eyes. Felt a surge of pride, but it was mixed with worry. Lyra's glow was weakening. She had given everything, and he feared the cost might be too great. He whispered to her, "Stay with me, Lyra, please, you're not alone." Her hand, weak but warm, brushed his cheek in response. I am here," she whispered, faint but alive. Chest tightened, a mixture of relief and amazement filling him. She had done the impossible. She had faced an overwhelming enemy, and through her courage and light, she had given humanity a second chance. And in that moment, standing amidst the ruined settlement with smoke and fire around them, realized the truth. Courage and compassion were not just human traits. They were universal. Lyra's light had shown that even the smallest touch could change the fate of many, and she had proven that hope could shine brighter than any fear or darkness. The morning after the battle was quiet, almost surreal. Smoke from the fires lingered in the air, and walls bore scorch marks, but the settlement itself had survived. Humans walked cautiously among the ruins, eyes wide, whispering to one another about the girl who had saved them. Lyra lay wrapped in blankets near the central plaza, her faint glow pulsing softly like the heartbeat of a fragile star. Stayed beside her, refusing to leave for even a moment. He had spent the night holding her, watching every breath, every flicker of light, praying she would awaken. Slowly, humans began to gather around. They came not with fear this time, but with quiet awe, their earlier suspicion replaced by gratitude and wonder. People brought blankets, food, and water, and some even gently placed small tools and supplies beside her, as if honoring her courage. The settlement's council approached hesitantly, their expressions a mix of shame and admiration. We judged her too quickly," one elder admitted softly. "She has saved us all. How could we have feared someone so selfless?" Nodded, holding Lyra's hand tightly. He had hoped humans would change, but he did not realize how deeply. As the sun rose higher, Lyra's glow brightened faintly, though still weak. Children crept closer, marveling at her soft light and the patterns on her arms. They whispered, "She's beautiful, she's magic, and she saved us." Lyra looked at them shyly, her lips curving into a small smile. For the first time in weeks, she felt something she had almost forgotten, belonging, knelt beside her, brushing dust and sweat from her hair. "See, you changed everything," he whispered. She blinked slowly, absorbing his words. I only did what I had to," she replied quietly, though a hint of pride softened her tone. She had risked everything, yet the warmth in his gaze and the humans' slowly growing acceptance made her feel something entirely new: hope. Over the next days, the settlement began to rebuild. Humans who had once doubted her now worked alongside her, helping clear rubble, fixing walls, and tending to small fires. Scientists and farmers approached cautiously, curious about her abilities. Lyra's energy helped stabilize weak machinery, purify water, and even accelerate plant growth in damaged gardens. Every act she performed inspired awe and gratitude. Watched her, feeling pride mixed with something softer, an affection that grew every time their hands brushed or their eyes met. Lyra, in turn, felt a gentle trust forming for the humans she had feared. Their courage, even flawed and hesitant, reminded her that compassion was not limited to her own kind. One evening, as the sun set and painted the settlement in warm orange light, and Lyra stood together on a small cliff overlooking the valley. The humans were settling down, repairing what they could, preparing for the future. Lyra's glow shimmered faintly in the dim light, reflecting the colors of the sunset. "You showed me humans can be good," she said softly, her voice carrying a mix of wonder and relief, smiled, gently brushing her glowing hand. "You showed us what courage looks like. You risked everything to save people who didn't even understand you. That's remarkable." She blushed slightly, the glow of her skin pulsing in rhythm with her emotions. It felt strange to her, being admired, trusted, and even loved in some small way by a species she had feared. As night fell, the settlement quieted. Fires burned in hearths, children slept soundly, and humans whispered stories of the glowing girl who had saved them from destruction. Stayed beside Lyra, holding her hand, feeling the soft warmth of her pulse beneath his fingers. "Do you think they will remember?" she asked quietly. "I think they already have," replied. "They will tell this story for generations, not just about the battle, but about the hope you gave them. About how even someone so different can change everything." Lyra's eyes softened, tears glimmering in the faint light. For the first time since her arrival, she believed it too. The humans, despite their fear and flaws, had seen her heart. They had accepted her not because she was strong or magical, but because she had chosen to care. And in return, she had allowed herself to be vulnerable, to trust, to hope. In that quiet night, realized something profound. Humanity's strength was not in weapons, technology, or walls. It was in their ability to accept, to change, and to rise above fear. And Lyra's presence had reminded them of that truth. For her, it was more than survival. It was the chance to belong, to inspire, and to connect. And for it was the start of something new, a bond forged in light, courage, and shared hope. Together they watched the stars emerge, their glow mingling with hers, and both felt certain that the world had changed. Not just because of one battle, but because one small, glowing touch had dared to light the darkness. Weeks passed, and the settlement transformed. Where walls had crumbled, humans rebuilt with stronger stone and reinforced steel. Where fear had once lived in the hearts of the people, hope now bloomed like the small gardens Lyra had helped nurture. Children ran freely, laughing, chasing the faint glow of her hands as she moved through the streets, teaching them how to grow plants with her gentle energy. Adults watched her with curiosity and respect, asking questions, learning from her, even cautiously touching her radiant skin to feel the warmth that pulsed like a heartbeat. Lyra had become more than a visitor. She had become a part of their lives, a bridge between the human world and the stars she had come from. Yet, despite all the admiration and awe, she remained humble, shy, and gentle, always aware of the fragility of trust she had been given. Stayed by her side through it all. Their bond had grown from that first nervous touch in the ruins of Station 9 into a quiet, unspoken understanding. They walked together through the valley every morning, repaired walls side by side, and spent long nights looking at the stars. Sometimes their hands brushed accidentally, and in those moments the warmth of her glow reminded them both of the fragile beginnings of their friendship, the touch that had changed everything. It was a reminder that courage, compassion, and trust could bridge the greatest of divides. Often watched her, feeling awe and something softer, an affection that had grown from admiration into something that neither time nor distance could erase. The humans themselves had begun to change. They were still cautious, still wary of the unknown, but they were learning. Scientists recorded her energy patterns, engineers marveled at her ability to repair machines with light alone, and farmers used her gentle glow to restore dead soil. The elders gathered often, discussing ways to teach future generations about courage, empathy, and the value of seeing past fear. "She has shown us what humanity can truly be," one elder said, his voice firm but soft. "If we can open our hearts to even a single being, even one so different, we can rise above our fears. We can become better." Lyra's presence had reminded them all that strength did not only lie in weapons or walls. It lived in kindness, in trust, in the ability to care for others regardless of their origin. One evening, as the sun dipped low over the valley, casting golden light across the settlement, and Lyra climbed to the cliff overlooking the world they had helped save. Below, the humans worked peacefully, laughing and rebuilding. Lyra's glow was soft, reflecting the sunset like a mirror of fire and light. She reached out, brushing her hand against. "I never thought humans could be this," she said, voice gentle. "I expected fear, suspicion, cruelty. Instead, I found kindness, courage, and hope. You have changed me. You showed me something I almost forgot, something I thought I lost forever," smiled, squeezing her hand gently. "You changed us too, Lyra. You reminded us what it means to protect, to trust, to care. You showed us that even the smallest light can shine through the darkest fear." She looked at him, eyes bright, and for the first time, fully relaxed. Her glow pulsed steadily, no longer a fragile flicker, but a confident, serene light. That night, the settlement gathered around a small bonfire. Children held hands with Lyra, laughing as she taught them to make patterns of light in the air. Adults listened quietly as she shared gentle stories of her home world of stars and of distant planets. Watched the scene unfold, hearts swelling. Humanity had survived a threat, but more than that, they had grown because of one being who was different, fragile, and radiant. Fear had been replaced with trust, suspicion with admiration, and isolation with belonging. Lyra's touch, both literal and emotional, had shown humans that courage and kindness were universal, not bound by species or shape. As the stars appeared overhead, Lyra rested her head lightly on his shoulder. "You said one touch could change everything," she murmured. "I never imagined it would be like this," kissed the top of her glowing hair softly. "It did, Lyra. You changed us all. You showed us the best of humanity through your courage, your heart, and your light. And in return, we showed you that even the unknown can belong somewhere, can be loved, and can be celebrated." She smiled, soft and full of quiet joy. Below them, the settlement glowed under the starlight. humans moving with purpose and hope, inspired by the courage of a girl from the stars. And in that moment realized the truth. Humanity had always been capable of greatness, but it took a single, gentle, alien touch to remind them. A touch that sparked trust. A touch that sparked hope. A touch that had changed not just a settlement, not just a day, but a species. And Lyra, the girl who had survived alone in fear, now stood at the center of a world transformed, radiant in every sense, and fully alive in a home she had found among humans.